Once, Britain was proud of its trains. The country had the first and greatest rail network in the world. You could travel between cities, towns and villages in comfort and style. But then, something changed. In 1961, a certain Dr. Beeching was hired by the government to write a report on the future of Britain's railways. He recommended closing a third of the network, shutting down thousands of stations and tearing up miles and miles of track. Beeching became one of the most reviled men in the country.
I just felt that it was wrong to close our railway. You get men in grey suits sitting in far-off offices and they look at a map and they use a pen and haven't a clue about the area.
Resistance was futile.
This was the gospel. This is what had to happen. This was what we had to accept.
In the wake of Dr. Beeching's cuts, Britain became a country of ghost lines and phantom platforms. Many saw it as a devastating assault on both our industrial and cultural heritage. Many more felt it was a body blow to ordinary rail passengers throughout the land. Now, over 40 years later, I'm looking back to see why Dr. Beeching became enshrined in British folklore as the Mad Axeman.
And I'm asking whether Beeching's actions were a necessary evil, or one of the great acts of vandalism of the 20th century. Every day in Britain, over 3 million people take the train. I'm one of them, and I love the railway.
I like the train because you can sit down, you can read, you can look out the window. Except when there aren't any seats and the only thing you can read is your overpriced ticket, and if you look out the window, you'll realise the train hasn't moved for 2 hours. Still, it's quicker by train, except when it isn't.
Train travel today undoubtedly lacks romance. And I've always wondered whether Dr. Beeching is to blame. When he closed so many lines and stations, did he extract the network's soul? Was that the start of our railway's decline? I'm sure it was so much better in the old days.
Unmitigated England came swinging down the line. That day the February sun did crisp and crystal shine. A village street, a manor house, a church, then tally-ho, we pounded through a housing scheme with telemasts a row, where cars of parked executives did regimented wait beside administrative blocks within the factory gate.
The poet John Betjeman was a huge fan of British railways and the joy of trains. He also had a keen appreciation of their unique contribution to the fabric of our national life.
From the view out of a first-class carriage to the unique charm of a village station, Betjeman eulogised train travel.
I can think of few pleasanter places to hang about in on a sunny afternoon like this than Snetcham Station.
But Betjeman's idyllic vision was not shared by everyone. In fact, many passengers found plenty to complain about.
Trains seem to be late for no reason whatever.
What about the stations?
The stations, well, they could be a lot better. I mean, this is a shocking place, isn't it, really? Fenchurch Street, really terrible.
Well, I mean, just look at the carriages. They're absolutely disgusting.
We never know why we're late. They never tell us. Do you feel pretty angry about it?
I do. We wouldn't mind so much. I think if the fares hadn't have been put up so many times.
Anything to say about the railways?
Shocking.
The reality of train travel in the 1950s and early 1960s was that it wasn't that different from train travel today. Even back then, complaints about high fares and low quality of service were par for the course.
The down-at-heel railway, with its shabby stations, was not in keeping with the government's vision for modern Britain.
Here, then, is the design for living of the future. A town planned down to the last nail, planned to be lived in and enjoyed by 80,000 of the citizens of tomorrow.
The country had finally emerged from years of post-war austerity. People wanted to get rid of the old and embrace all that was shiny, streamlined and convenient. The government was keen to capitalise on this mood and forge a dynamic, modern nation with a dynamic, modern railway service. But station makeovers were trivial compared to the real changes that had to be made. The railway's finances were in meltdown. They'd been losing money for years, and by 1961 were in debt to the colossal sum of £136 million. As a nationalised industry, this overspend was a huge headache for the government. Conservative Prime Minister Harold Macmillan was determined the situation must alter. He wanted the railways to run like a business and pay for themselves. It was thought only an outsider from the railways could deliver this, so the job was offered to a captain of industry, steeped in the values of the hard-nosed commercial world.
'Cause he gets up in the morning and he goes to work at 9 and he comes back home at 5:30, gets the same train.
Dr. Richard Beeching had a PhD in physics and was considered one of the most brilliant business brains in the country.
And he's all so good, and he's all so fine.
By the age of 43, he'd risen to the board of one of Britain's top companies, ICI.
He's a well-respected man about town.
Now he was made chairman of the British Railways Board.
Beeching was exactly the right man for taking on the job of turning around the railway's finances, largely because he had the right image. It was a time when politicians believed you needed technocrats, experts, people who were doctors to solve these sorts of problems.
Nowadays, we're not surprised to hear of a manager from a private industry parachuted into an ailing public company. But in the 1960s, it was rare. People couldn't understand what someone from the chemical industry could possibly do for the railways. The Mirror was pretty sneery. Last night, Dr. Beeching sat in his spacious office at ICI headquarters in London and admitted with a bland smile, "No, I have no experience at railways, except as a passenger. So I'm not a practical railwayman. But I am a very practical man." To demonstrate this practicality, Beeching first insisted that the government match his ICI salary.
The best things in life are free, but you can give them to the birds and bees. I need fun.
Do you think that perhaps public service should in itself be regarded as part of the reward for a job of your sort?
I don't think so under circumstances such as these. This really is a straightforward industrial job.
Money don't get everything, it's true.
Beeching's salary made the Mirror's front page. A new rail boss at £24,000, it says. And £24,000 was an unprecedented amount of money to give a public servant, particularly when, as the Mirror points out, the Prime Minister was only making £10,000 a year. Impervious to criticism, Beeching set out to save the railways from insolvency.
It will